I hope that the population everywhere in the world that is being subjected to this nonsense does put on their yellow jackets and show up.
This is Dan Dix here, reporting for Press for Truth, and I'm here with the one and only G. Edward Griffin. I'm here at your home. Thank you so much for inviting me into your house and for the great hospitality.
My pleasure.
Now, an article just popped up about an hour ago, and I wanted to get your views on this. This is from the Washington Times. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's plan to dramatically increase taxes on carbon emissions to combat climate change is setting the stage for a bitter and partisan federal election next year. Now, right now in France, we're seeing a movement against this. People are very, very upset. And it looks like Trudeau is about to do a similar move in Canada. So I'm wondering, is this potentially going to lead to another kind of yellow vest movement in Canada, similar to what we're seeing now in France?
Well, I think it possibly could. I think it probably will, but of course you can't predict the future. The reason I say it should is because I think it's time for the average person to let their government know, their leaders know, that they're not happy with they're not happy with the taxation. Of course, it keeps getting higher and higher and higher. But the thing that does not appear in the news is the purpose of the taxation. They're not happy with that either. The news media would like everyone to believe that the argument about global warming is all settled, and so when they say we're going to raise taxes to stop global warming or global climate change or so forth, you're not supposed to even question whether that's a good thing or not. When the fact is, many of us know that this whole issue of climate change or global warming is artificially created. It's a propaganda piece for the government to justify raising taxes. The real issue is just raising taxes. And of course, politicians know that if they came on and they said, well, we're going to raise taxes, and somebody asked them why, and if they just said, well, just because we need more money, that wouldn't go over too good. So they have to have always a good reason for raising the taxes. Well, we need to improve our bridges or our roads, or we have a national emergency of some kind, or a global emergency like climate change. And it's all theater. And it's to make people think, oh, well, we have to go along with these taxes or else our planet will be destroyed. So it's propaganda, it's theater, it's all designed to cover the political drive for more power over people and more taxes extracted from them. And I hope that the population everywhere in the world that is being subjected to this nonsense does put on their yellow jackets and show up.
Mm-hmm. Well, taxing it's confusing to me on how that could lead to stopping something like global warming. I mean, I think they say it's about stopping the carbon footprint, but these larger companies, and they're not going to pay the taxes. They're going to find the back doors, and it seems the little mom and pops are going to be the ones who are actually affected by these taxes. So it's kind of an oxymoron or an unfulfilling prophecy. It's not possible for this to work that way, right?
Well, that's right. The idea of the idea that if you raise taxes, global warming is going to go away. Of course, it's not real anyway. But if you're silly enough to think that global warming is real, it doesn't make sense. Oh, we raise taxes, that'll take care of global warming. No, it just goes into the pockets of the politicians, and they'll be spending it on something else. Mm-hmm. And there's no way you can make global warming go away because it's not happening. Mm-hmm. First of all, and even if it were happening, even the best projections made by the so-called scientists who are trying to make the case, they show that, well, we might reduce global warming by 1/10 of 1% over the next 20 or 30 years. In other words, it's so transparent. This is an excuse to raise taxes and increase government power, period.
Mm-hmm. So in closing, what should people be more so focusing on in order to how to deal with the problems of the government, rather than, just worrying about the taxes? What can they actually do to deal with these guys?
Well, they have to get these guys out of there, that's all, because these guys they have an agenda. They go into office with an agenda. They want to build more global power, political power, and they go in knowing how they're going to do it. They're going to use national security against terrorism, or they're going to use global warming as some major threat like that as the justification. And you're not going to change the system unless you change the people who are creating these myths and and spreading this propaganda. You've got to change those people. You've got to question them. You've got to call them on the carpet and say, you are not telling the truth. And this is where I think that we might be coming to this stage now, because I think even though it's the question of taxes that has finally brought up this irate response among the population, the real issue is the fact that their political leaders are not telling them the truth and are pursuing hidden agendas.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's time has come, really, and I think we're at that fork in the road now where it really could go in a number of directions, but I think it's time we move towards, a global non-compliance kind of a movement and just stepping outside of the system and saying, no thanks, I don't want to take part in this anymore. You can have your laws, I'll stay over here and mind my own business. Would you agree that, focusing on personal individual freedom and liberty is maybe a way to move forward?
Well, I certainly think we need to focus on personal individual liberty and freedom, but we have to recognize that these people have the force of the government. I mean, they can send the soldiers and the police to your door with guns, and you can just say, oh, leave me alone. I just want to do my own thing. It doesn't work. You have to change the system, because the system is coming after you. Mm-hmm. So you can't just say, oh, leave me alone. They will not leave you alone. Right. So you've got part of your personal responsibility that you're talking about, that I agree with, includes becoming masters of your own fate and taking charge of your system. Mm-hmm. We live in a system, whether we like it or not. Right. Maybe we would like to see that there was no system, but we're living in one, and it's coming after us if we don't do something to change it.
Right. I've often said, the system isn't broken, the system is fixed, and it has been since the very beginning. Thank you so much for taking your time to help explain that for us, and you keep up the awesome work, and thank you for inviting us in here.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.